All right, let's jump right in. In this age where AI is changing just about everything, it's easy to think we need better software, faster computers. But what if the most important upgrade isn't in our tech, but in us, in our own minds? Today, we're going to take a look at Steve Jobs' most famous piece of advice and see how it's not just some nice inspirational quote, it's actually a critical survival guide for right now, for the age of AI. Yeah, you've definitely heard these words before, right? They're on posters, they're all over social media. But to really, really get their power, we need to go back to the exact moment they were first said. So picture this. It's 2005, Stanford University. The guy on stage, Steve Jobs. And here's the thing. What almost no one in that audience knew was that he was in the middle of a private, brutal battle with pancreatic cancer. So this wasn't just another speech. It was more like a testament. Every single word was coming from a place of knowing, really knowing, that our time here is incredibly limited.
So what did he actually mean by that famous phrase? Well, let's break it down. It really comes down to two key parts.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty here. Staying hungry, that's all about this relentless drive, this curiosity to learn stuff that has no obvious practical use. It's just about feeding your brain. But then you have staying foolish, and that's different. That's about having the guts to be a total beginner again, to jump into something new without any guarantee it'll work out, even if everyone around you thinks you're, well, kind of nuts. And here's a perfect example of that hungry mind in action. So Jobs drops out of college. He has no reason, no practical reason at all, to just wander into a calligraphy class. It wasn't on his major, it wasn't going to get him a job. He was just curious. Fast forward 10 years. That useless little hobby, it becomes the foundation for the Mac's beautiful, revolutionary typography. It literally changed the face of personal computing. Now for the foolish part. Can you even imagine getting fired from the company you started? For most people, that's it. Game over. But Jobs, he was foolish enough to just start over. He launched Next, which, yeah, was a commercial failure, but here's the irony. Its technology became the heart of the modern Mac OS. And then he bought Pixar, a little company that went on to completely revolutionize the entire animation industry. He wasn't afraid to be a beginner all over again.
Okay, so this is all a great story from the past, right? But why does this advice from almost 20 years ago matter more now than ever? Well, the answer is simple, and it's one word: AI. The rise of AI completely changes the game when it comes to what learning even means. Think about it. For like the last 100 years, education has had a pretty simple formula, right? You memorize facts, you pass the standardized tests, and you get a job. But in the age of AI, that model is completely, totally broken. Why? Because machines can recall facts and crunch numbers a million times faster than any human ever could. The skills that we built our whole system on, like rote memorization, they're basically becoming commodities. There's another line from that same speech that hits so much harder today. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. And in the AI era, living someone else's life means something new. It means just passively taking the answers AI spits out, following the path an algorithm sets for you, instead of carving out your own path because you're genuinely curious. And this leads us to a really uncomfortable question, a huge challenge for all of us. I mean, if AI has all the answers, what's the value of knowing anything? Why bother learning? This one question is forcing us to rethink the entire purpose of education from the ground up. So how do we actually adapt? What do our classrooms need to look like now? Well, people are trying, a lot of people. And let's be honest, some have failed spectacularly, but others are giving us a little peek into what the future could look like. Let's start with a cautionary tale. Ever hear of alt school? It was founded by a top Google executive, and the hype was huge. It was supposed to be the Tesla of education, super personalized, totally data-driven, with all the biggest names in Silicon Valley throwing money at it. But it ended up being a really expensive lesson in what not to do. So what went wrong? In a word, speed. The investors, they wanted that classic tech company growth. Fast, massive, scalable. But here's the thing. Education isn't an app you can just push an update to. That pressure to scale absolutely crushed the real mission. Teachers were wrestling with buddy software, and the most important part, the human connection, just got completely lost in the shuffle.
Now let's contrast that with a totally different approach. This one from another tech titan, Elon Musk school at Astra. Now, it's super exclusive, pretty mysterious, but its whole philosophy is the polar opposite of alt school. The focus isn't on some fancy tech platform. It's all about training the mind to deal with messy, complex, ambiguous problems, the exact kind of stuff that AI is terrible at.
So check out this example of what they call an ad astra conundrum. A spaceship is escaping a dying Earth. There's only one seat left. Who gets it? The thing is, there's no right answer. That's not the point. The goal is to get students to argue it out, to think from all these different angles, scientific, ethical, social, all at the same time. It's like a workout for your judgment muscle.
Or how about this one? Should a super advanced AI be allowed on a human jury? Whoa, that forces you to tackle the very idea of justice, of bias, of what it even means to be human. You can't just Google the answer to that. These questions are designed to build an internal framework for how to think, and that is exactly what this new era demands from us. Okay, so what does all this mean for you and me right now? It means we have to get serious about cultivating the abilities that make our minds special, the things that make us uniquely human, and frankly, irreplaceable. So what are these AI-proof abilities? Well, researchers have kind of boiled it down to 5 core things that give us the human edge. First, thinking to create, coming up with truly new ideas, not just remixing what's already there. Second is mental plasticity, which is just a fancy way of saying you can be flexible in how you think. Third, our deep social and emotional intelligence, our ability to connect. Fourth, aesthetic intelligence, our sense of beauty and meaning. And finally, maybe the most important one of all, ethical reasoning.
Let's just pause on that last one for a second, because it's so crucial. Look, you can program an AI to optimize for a goal. Make more money, be more efficient, go faster, fine. But it can't feel responsibility. It doesn't understand regret or compassion. An AI cannot make a true moral judgment. That burden and that incredible power is still all on us. It's entirely human.
So, where does this leave us? Well, it points to a massive shift in the whole reason we learn in the first place. At the end of the day, our goal can't be to compete with AI on its terms. We'll lose every time. We can't beat it on speed, we can't beat it on memory. Our new job is something different. It's to build the wisdom, the ethical backbone, and the creative vision to guide these incredibly powerful tools. We need to be the architects, not the calculators.
And look at that. We're right back where we started. Stay hungry. That's about chasing that weird, seemingly useless knowledge that lets you connect the dots in ways no one else can. That's the core of human creativity. And stay foolish? That's having the courage to ask the big, new questions and dive into problems that don't have a neat and tidy answer. That's the heart of exploration and of ethical reasoning. So, in the end, stay hungry, stay foolish wasn't just some nice philosophy for a good life. It turns out it's a practical blueprint for a meaningful future with AI. In a world that's about to be flooded with artificial answers, our greatest, most human value will come from our ability to ask brand new questions. So the only thing left to ask is, what new questions will you ask?